What the hell is up, everybody? Louis back here again for another mediocre weekend of fights. You got Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Lemos at 115 pounds with mid-straw weight for potential title shot or #1 contender spot. You got Zhang Weili taking on Carla Esparza next weekend for the title, so we'll see what happens with that. Can't really make a decision until that happens. Not a great card, but you do have Neil Magny taking on Daniel Rodriguez. That should be a fun one. Daniel had a year-long layoff, and he's trying to make another run here, and he needs to get past Neil Magny to do that, and Neil Magny really needs a win to stay relevant in this division and keep his gatekeeper status to the elite of the division. So, should be interesting. Also, you got Grant Dawson taking on Marco Madsen. I'm really interested in that. I think both guys are fighting for a top 15 spot there at 155 pounds. Really hard to get ranked in that weight class. Also, you got Miranda Maverick returning, and she's just one of my favorite women prospects, period. So, I'm excited for that one. Quick recap of last weekend. Didn't do great. Khalil Roundtree came through big for me, plus 150 underdog. Really happy about that. But Jared Van Der couldn't get it done. And neither could Arlovsky. And, you know, I thought I had a thing going here with the low-level heavyweight underdogs. But, so, you know, heavyweight is still heavyweight. And sometimes people get knocked out. So, also, Steve Garcia just knocking out Chase Hooper like that. I misread that situation pretty badly, and Chase Hooper was a big favorite. So, got to be careful with Chase Hooper moving forward. But, yeah, so let's get right into it here. It's a whatever weekend of fights. Next weekend, you got the pay-per-view. So, first fight of the night, 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. You got, women's bantamweight. You got Tamiris Vidal taking on Ramona Pascal. Ramona is actually coming down from 145 in her last fight. Tamiris fought Kiela Braga. She fought outside the organization. This will be her UFC debut. In the first round, she lands an overhand to the fence in order to get the clinch. She'll just throw that and then go for the clinch right away. But then she just kind of walks into some crosses. She stalks, throws some overhands, but then she eats some 1-2s. But then she's able to push her down whenever she catches her kick, and then she pulls the guillotine. Can't really get it though. Then in the second round, she gets rocked and she walks into a cross, just kind of going forward with her hands down. But then she rushes with some sloppy overhands. But then she's able to get the body lock takedown, and then she's able to get into full mount and then full mount and a half guard, and then some ground and pound, and then she pulls the heel hook and gets a submission and just kind of goes for it. So, you know, hopefully her submission game holds up. But again, lower level competition. And then Ramona Pascal took on Jocelyn Edwards, but this was up at 145. In the first round, she backs up, lands some leg kicks at range, but then she eats some hooks whenever she's going for the clinch. But then, and she kind of eats some teeps whenever she's coming forward, but she's able to catch the kick and then get into the clinch. And then she lands some body kicks. Then she hurts her with a flurry and some knees out of that clinch. So some nice work there in the pocket. And then she lands some body kicks and then a head kick. And then the second round, she gets clinched, but she eats some hooks. And then she rushes forward with some hooks, kind of wildly. But then she gets kept at bay with some hooks when she's trying to get in. But she's able to get the single leg takedown right at the end of the round. I don't know how much she scored off of it, though. Then in the third round, she slips some straight shots, and she's able to shoot the double to the fence. But then she clinches to the single, and then her takedown attempt gets stuffed, and she eats a hook flurry to the body and the head. She walks into a couple 1-2s and an uppercut, and then she lands a wild flurry at the end, but she kind of eats some shots too. It's kind of like a firefight at the end. Ramona Pascal plus 110, Tamiris minus 130. I'm going to go with Ramona. I don't love the weight cut, obviously, but it's women's, and for whatever reason, it's not that big a deal in the women's division. Also, who is Tamiris Vidal? Low-level women's MMA. I had to go with the underdog. I think Ramona Pascal, she hits hard, and I think she'll be able to pressure her. Hopefully, she can defend the takedowns, but, for even money, I'm willing to take that chance. I'm going to go with Ramona Pascal. We'll see. Okay, second fight of the night at 125 pounds, men's flyweight. You got Carlos Candelario taking on Jake Hadley. Candelario took on Tatsuro Tairo, his last fight. Tough ask of him. In the first round, he lands some step-in feints. He feints the jabs, and he looks for some kicks, but then he walks into his single, and then he gets put in the clinch. But then he goes for a swing single, but it's stuffed. But then he eats a cross standing at range. He gets pressed with the 1-2 and a head kick at range, though. But then he gets taken down with the single to the body lock, but then he's able to stand up, and then he lands a couple of jabs, and he's able to shoot a single leg takedown. Then in the second round, he lands a front kick and then left-right hooks, but his double attempt gets stuffed, and then he gets dropped with the straight right, and then he gets put in a backpack, but he's able to defend a rear naked choke, but eats a good amount of ground and pound, but then he's able to turn in and finally get on top for like the last 30 seconds of the round. So you like seeing that fight out of him. At least he's able to reverse the position, get a moral victory. Then in the third round, he lands some jabs and he gets a single off the fence and he pulls the guillotine, but then he gets reversed and put in a triangle. He gets his back taken again and then he gets mounted, eats some nasty ground and pound, but he hangs in there. Goes to decision, so there's that. And then Jake Hadley took on Alan Nascimento, his last fight. In the first round, his kick gets caught and he gets taken down, but he uses the omoplata attempt to reverse the position, and then he scrambles, and then he gets put in an ankle lock, and then he gets swept out though. So he wasn't able to take advantage of the situation and like maintain top position. Then in the second round, he gets pressed with some front kicks, but then he walks into a double leg takedown. But he keeps the underhook and he tries to shrimp, and then he tries to use the butterfly stand up, but he's having some trouble. Then he's eventually gets his back to the fence and he's able to stand up. So he's not accepting bottom position either. Then in the third round, he presses with some 1-2s and eats some kicks, and he gets the standing guillotine, and then he gets on top, like mounted, and then he's able to transition to half guard, and he tries to go for the arm triangle, but then he takes his back, but then he slides off, tries to go for the hooks a little too quickly and slides off the top, and then he gets put in a darce, but then he's able to get to his knees in like a front headlock position, and he's able to stand up from there, but then he stuffs the double with a guillotine, and then he's able to tip him over and go into half guard, but then he gets swept pretty fastly after. So a tough one for him, but you know. Jake Hadley minus 255, Carlos Candelario plus 215. I'm gonna go with Carlos Candelario. I mean, I think Hadley is the better skilled grappler, but Tatsuro Tairo is a pretty hot prospect, and Carlos Candelario was able to battle his positions and reverse him a bunch of times, and was able to take him down a time or two. And for this price tag, minus 250 for Jake Hadley, I just don't think it's good. I don't like that, especially at flyweight, where we've seen a couple upsets with Tyson Nam just knocking people out. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it should be I think there'll be some grappling exchanges, but I just think Jake Hadley might try to force the wrestling too much, and Candelario will be able to clip him with some shots on the feet. So I like that price tag, plus 215. Why not? And then the fight to go under 2.5, plus 170. We'll see if that flyweight unders can hit again. But overall, I like Carlos Candelario here. I think it's worth the gamble. Third fight of the night at 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. You got Ludovic Sholinian taking on Johnny Munoz. Sholinian took on Jack Shore his last fight. In the first round, he jabs with the lunge 1-2, but he misses. And then his kick is caught and he gets taken down, and he gets put in an arm triangle and gets up his back, but he's able to stand up and reverse and get the clinch position. Then the second round, he walks into a cross, but he lunges and he gets his arm passed by and gives up his back, but he's able to get out of that position, get back to his feet. But then he chases with some overhands, but he walks into some jabs and some hooks, and then he gets the double to the fence off of his hook attempt, but he's not able to finish it, but he's able to keep the pressure. And then in the third round, he stalks with some jabs, but then he walks into some shots of his own, just kind of coming forward a little recklessly. But then he gets shot to the fence, and then he gets clenched, and he eats a jab, but he lands a 1-2, standing at range. And then Johnny Munoz took on Tony Grappelli's last fight. In the first round, circles on the outside, he slips a 1-2, but then he rushes, and he eats an uppercut and just kind of gets KO'd. So yeah, I think he goes for like a clinch, then he just gets knocked the fuck out. So, but before that, he took on Jamie Simmons. In the first round, he jabs, he's outside, moves in and out. Then he lands an overhand, and then he level changes, but then he eats a short hook on the level change. But then he's able to slip the overhand and go to the body lock, get the takedown. And then in the second round, he backs up, lands some jabs, and he ducks a jab, and he gets the double. And he's able to take his back whenever he turns into him, and he puts both hooks in, but he loses it. But then he's able to readjust it and land some ground and pound, and then he's able to readjust, get the body triangle, and then get the rear naked choke submission. I like seeing that persistence out of him, and it seemed like he had a system, and he knew exactly what he was doing to look for the rear naked choke. Johnny Munoz minus 240, Ludovic Sholinian plus 200. I'm gonna go with Johnny Munoz. That body triangle was deadly. I think he'll be able to get to it. And Ludovic, just, he was the guy on The Ultimate Fighter recently, and didn't win all his fights. And I just thought Johnny Munoz looked really good. We'll just hope his chin holds up. You know, that's the only concern there. But I don't think Sholinian's like a huge power puncher. I mean, Munoz might get rocked by him, but I think he'll be okay. I think second and third rounds, I think Munoz is going to be able to get him to the ground. And I think like Sholinian might rush him out of time, and then Munoz will just be able to take him down. So I don't know. I'm going to go with him. Johnny Munoz minus 240, and then submission plus 250. I like that option. My pick's Johnny Munoz. Feature fight of the prelims at 115 pounds, women's strawweight. Got VIANA taking on FREY. VIANA took on Tabitha her last fight. In the first round, she lands a front kick and then a flurry in the pocket. And then she jumps the guillotine, doesn't get it, not a great move. And then she tries to pull her down, and then she gets double-legged, and she tries to go for the triangle, kind of. But Tabitha just like grinding her shoulder into her chest and just ground and pounding. And then the second round, she blitzes, but then she backs go in and out with the blitz. But then she throws some leg kicks at range, but then she gets pressed back with some feints, and then she gets double-legged again. Then in the third round, she blitzes with the 1-2, but then she gets clinched off of that, and then she gets pressed with some jabs, gets double-legged off the fence again, and then she feeds her hips whenever off the double attempt, and then she's able to defend in the front headlock, and then she pulls with the front headlock and then pulls the guillotine, doesn't get it. So it's kind of all she has. So it seemed like to me. And then FREY took on Vanessa Demopoulos her last fight. In the first round, she eats a check left hook, but then she lands a counter left of her own, and then she pressures forward, but then she eats a step in long right hook from Vanessa. She's able to cut off the cage zone, land a combination, but then she catches a kick and lands a 1-2, but then she gets blast double, just coming forward with her hands down, or her hands up, and not thinking about the takedown. But then she lands some double jabs on the cage, but then she eats a straight right off of her hook. And then in the second round, she feints a jab and then a straight left, lands a straight left. Then she walks into a cross, but then she's able to land a head kick at range. And then she's eating some right hands, and she's too short throwing her 1-2, and she keeps getting countered from there. Then in the third round, she counters with the left hook when they're in a firefight, but she's able to cut off the cage, but then she gets clinched. She gets cut off, and then she gets clinched from there. She's trying to like circle, and Vanessa's just kind of walking her down. But then she lands some jabs off of Vanessa's overhand, but then she's able to stuff the single leg attempt, but then she gets clinched up on the fence. FREY plus 125, VIANA minus 145. I think this line's a little bit hilarious. I'm going to go FREY. Low-level women's, slight underdog. VIANA, all she tried to do was go for a guillotine. FREY has decent wrestling, or at least she can put a game plan together to wrestle and just can't get caught in the guillotine. I don't know. I'm just going to go FREY. Why not? Underdog, you know. Co-main event off the prelims, 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. You got Mario Bautista taking on Benito Lopez. Benito Lopez coming up off a 2-year-long layoff, so that should be interesting. Bautista took on Brian Kelleher his last fight. In the first round, he pressures with some feint, and he feints with some feints, and then a double jab, and then right cross, and then he hits a snatch single, and then he gets immediately into side control. But then Kelleher gets back up, he's in the clinch, gets him down with the back strip again, full mount, rear naked choke, no hook, gets a submission. So, I don't know. You could say Kelleher's like kind of washed, but, you know, still impressive to do that over Kelleher. Kelleher is a tough fighter, so. But then he took on Jay Perrin his last fight. In the first round, he lands a jump knee, and he's able to defend the clinch attempt. Then he eats a jab to the body at range, but then he lands a 1-2 off of a kick, and then he's able to reverse the clinch and then hit a knee tap takedown. And he lands a counter jab off of his overhands, but then he gets doubled, but he gets right back up. So I like seeing that. Then in the second round, he's in and out with some overhands and some combos. He lands a jump knee in the clinch, but then he gives up his back standing, but then he's able to reverse the position, get the clinch on the fence, and then he's able to drag him down, but he's not able to take the back or hold him down, but he's still moving, still trying to get him to the ground. But then he lands some elbows in the clinch, and then he's in the pocket. He's kind of shells up and eats some hooks, and then he backs out. But, you know, looks decently defensively sound, but he kind of take one to give one. And then Benito Lopez took on Vince Morales his last fight, and this was in 2019. In the first round, he stalks with some leg kicks, but then he walks into an overhand, and he gets dropped, and he tries to go for the triangle. You know, it's kind of a last resort. Then the second round, he circles on the outside, and he looks for some jabs. Then he eats overhand over top of his jab, starts getting countered, but then he gets cut off, and he eats some overhands in the pocket. Then in the third round, he lands some leg kicks at range, but then he gets pressed and eats an uppercut and a hook on the inside of him. Then he gets blitzed to the body, then he kind of gets blitzed again, and just can't really get going. So, I guess it was kind of an exciting fight, but honestly, like, not a ton happened, and Benito didn't really do a whole lot. Like, he just kind of looks for the perfect shot, it seemed like to me. He didn't really stay busy. And Benito Lopez plus 250, Mario Bautista minus 300. I don't love the price tag, but a 2-year-long layoff, I don't like that. And Mario Bautista coming off the biggest win of his life, and a very good performance, and finishing Brian Kelleher in the first round is impressive. So I'm going to go with Mario Bautista. I think he's going to wrestle him right away. I think he's going to be able to get him down. I think he might even be able to submit him. And I think he's just going to get right in Benito's face. And Benito's just going to try to keep range. He's not going to be able to. And I think Bautista's going to make it a dirty fight. And I think he's going to grind him out. I can see a finish happening here. Submission from Mario Bautista plus 500. I don't hate that. But I'm going to go with Mario Bautista. I think he's on the rise. I think he's got to watch out for a bantamweight. And the main event of the prelims. Actually, no, I'm sorry, I wasn't. I was wrong. This is the co-main event of the prelims, excuse me. 125 pounds, women's flyweight. Miranda Fear the Maverick taking on Shanna Young. I'm excited. I've been watching Miranda Maverick since her debut on Fight Island a couple years ago, whenever she broke that lady's nose. So I'm excited for this one. She took on Sabina Mazo her last fight in the first round. She circles on the outside, and then she lands a step in overhand, and then some leg kicks, but then she's able to back out. So she's just kind of moving in and out, trying to find her range. But then she throws some feints, and she's able to get the knee tap, and she's able to escape the armbar attempts pretty easily. And then she gets a clinch to the double, and then takes her over with a hip toss. And then in the second round, she walks into a double jab, but then she kind of takes like a half shot and just gets her guessing with the takedowns. And then she's able to just dip down on one of her shots, and then she lands an overhand left. She circles the cage. She's able to catch a kick, get the single leg takedown, and then a right to the rear naked choke, no hooks, and get the submission. So pretty savvy on the ground there, and you know, she was on a warpath to get a finish, and she finally did. So good momentum for her. Then Shanna Young took on Gina Mazzani her last fight. In the first round, she gets clinched to the fence, but then she gets clinched, and then she eats a knee to the head. But she's able to stay at range, and she's able to back out of the jabs and kicking range. But then she lands a front kick and a 1-2. Then in the second round, she eats some hooks whenever she's entering the pocket. But then she's able to land a check left hook off of Gina's overhand. But then she gets hip tossed. But then she's able to keep the underhook and get on top. And then she's able to get the back mount and just TKO her with ground and pound. And Gina Mazzani was getting noticeably tired and just threw too many hard shots. But Shayna was able to take advantage of that. So, you know, she shows some savviness. Shanna Young is plus 480 and Miranda Maverick minus 645. So, yeah, they fought in Invicta before, I guess, and Miranda choked her out really fast. So that might be a reason. But Miranda Maverick's not worth that much money. I'm sorry. And she's one of my favorite fighters in the women's division. And I still don't think she's worth that money. So I'm just going to have to go to Shanna Young off of sheer principle. I don't know. I just have a feeling I'm probably going to lose this one. That's okay. I'm willing to lose a fight or two. But I'm not willing to lose minus 600 on Miranda Maverick on a lower-level women's fight, even though they're both on the rise. And this is an important fight for both of them to try to break into the rankings, possibly. I just don't like it. Okay? So, and this fight fell off before due to Shanna Young weight cut issues. So, but I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe she got a break, and maybe she's able to work on some more things. Maybe she just got her body right, and she's going to be a completely new fighter. Who knows? But I'm going to go Shanna Young. Fuck it. All right, the main event of the prelims, 145 pounds. Should be interesting. You got Derek Minner taking on YILAN Nurenbeke. Derek Minner took on Ryan Hall his last fight. He lost, but Ryan Hall is very weird, so that's not the greatest data to go off of. So I'm going to go his fight before that took on Darren Elkins. In the first round, he lands some jabs and overhands at range. He's able to defend the double, and then he kind of puts him in a standing guillotine, but doesn't do much with it. He tries to go for the Darce, but then he gets taken down with the single. But then he hits the Peterson. He takes his back and then goes for a top triangle to an armbar, and then he's able to regain the back, and then he tries a couple more guillotines, you know, just kind of throwing everything at the wall there. But then he's able to stuff the leg lock attempt and then land some nasty elbows to finish up the round. So it looked pretty good in the first round. But then in the second round, he throws an uppercut to the double, and then he rolls through the guillotine, and then he's able to get onto his back. He's able to take his back again. Then he pulls guillotine, but then he gets pushed over into half guard, and then he eats some ground and pound. And then he gets put in a crucifix, and then he gets his back taken and just TKO'd with some ground and pound, and he just had no conditioning left. So I guess he's a first round type of guy. I don't know. It showed that he could go 3 rounds against Ryan Hall, so I don't know if that narrative is necessarily true. But that's what he showed in that fight. And then against Yulan took on TJ Brown his last fight. In the first round, he eats some knees in the plum tie. Then he lands a lead left hook and he drops him with a straight right, and then he hips him over on the double attempt, and then he's able to get on top, and establish position. Then he defends an armbar and a calf slicer attempt, and then he gets pressure with some jabs, but then he eats some at range, and his single attempt gets stuffed, kind of takes a desperate single. Then he eats a counter overhand and a body shot, but then he's able to get the double into full guard. Doesn't do a ton, but able to secure that and score some points, as they say. And then in the second round, he gets a double to the body lock off of his jab, and he's able to take his back, but he tries to get the rear naked choke, but then he gets reversed and he gives up his back, but he eventually turns in and then gets on top, and he's able to defend a triangle attempt. Then in the third round, he lands a 1-2 in the pocket, and then he lands a jab off of his uppercut, and he hits a blast double whenever he gets pressed. He's able to transition into half guard, but then he gets swept from like an elevator, or TJ Brown kind of elevates his hips, and he gets reversed from there. And then he gets his back taken to end the fight, but wasn't enough time for TJ to do anything, and Yulan took a close decision there, I guess. And TJ Brown's corner was just screaming at him with 1 minute left to let him up and just throw a Hail Mary and just try to knock him out, and he didn't do that, so, Shah Yulan is minus 210, and Derek Minner plus 180. I've been going back and forth on this one. I'm going to go with Derek Minner because I don't think Shah Yulan's worth minus 210. I think he does have some proficient grappling, but it's like more of a back and forth thing. I don't know if he'll be able to maintain a dominant position throughout the fight, and I think Derek Minner is really going to put it on him in the first round. Now, does Derek Minner fall off after the first round? That's what I'm counting on. I just don't feel comfortable putting this much money on Shah Yulan because he beat TJ Brown. And TJ Brown made some bad IQ mistakes in that fight. So, and, Derek Minner's got some nasty submission attempts. I think he might be able to catch Shaw in one. Shaw might take like a shot too far out. Derek Minner might be able to lock up a Darce or something like that, Who knows? But Derek Minner by submission plus 330. I don't hate that one either. I just don't feel comfortable. I mean, it's more of a fade on Shah Yulan, but I'm going to go with Derek Minner here. Let's see what happens, All right, the first fight of the main card at 155 pounds, men's lightweight, you got Grant KGD Dawson, I think that's what his name is, taking on Marco Madsen. Should be a fun one. Both guys are right on the cusp of being ranked, so I think the winner of this fight is going to be ranked at least at number 15 to 13. So it's an important fight for both guys here, and Marco Madsen is a little bit older, so it's kind of do or die for him here. Dawson took on Jared Gordon his last fight. Best he's looked ever, by the way. In the first round, he gets rushed with some overhands, but he misses a lunge, 1-2, but he tries to get the trip, but then he gets pushed over by Jared. Then he able to snatch single to a body lock, but then he gets put in a guillotine, but he rolls through, and he's able to get to his feet. Jared Gordon, really good defense. He was really savvy this fight, but then he eats some hooks in the pocket, but then he's able to get the double and take him to his back. Get on his back, and then he gets the body, locks up the body triangle, and some nasty ground and pound for the rest of the fight. And that's how most of the rounds would go. It would be a struggle to get Jared Gordon down. Jared Gordon would be able to defend and scramble, but eventually Dawson was just able to hit one move and get that body triangle in there like that. So, and then in the second round, he gets rushed, but he level changes, but then he's able to get the single, and he's kind of like extended on the bottom. He gets a single, and then he's able to flatten him out. And he's able to get the body triangle from there, and he took his time and put it in, just didn't jump on it haphazardly. Then he kind of loses it when he's transitioning to mount, but it's okay because he had enough control time. But then he shoots to the fence, but he backs out of the hooks, but he pumps his jab, and then he gets clinched, but he hits the elbow bump, and then he's able to get the single leg takedown and end the round. Then in the third round, he lands a wild right hook whenever Jared Gordon presses forward. Jared's a little desperate now. He knows he needs a finish, but then he shoots a low single, but it gets stuffed, and he eats some hooks for his trouble. But then he gets a double from the pocket exchange, but it gets stuffed again. But he shoots a single, and he's kind of like extended, and he's trying to work it, trying to pull his knees up and finish it. But then he's able to finish it out the back. Gordon was like kind of draped over him, kind of like a crotch lock position type of deal, and Gordon's like elbowing him instead of like trying to get his hips back and stand up. And then he's able to get the rear naked choke submission with like less than a minute left, I think. So, you know, he's deadly in those scrambles. And Jared Gordon's a tough bastard, so I was very impressed by that performance. And then Marco Madsen took on Vince Pichel his last fight. In the first round, he circles back and he pumps some leg kicks, but he starts coming forward. And then he throw a kick, and then he'll just kind of back out. But then he presses 1-2 off of Pichel's hooks. But then he gets a body lock off of a leg kick, and he's able to get into side control. And Pichel's able to like shrimp. And then and then Marco Madsen has him in a front headlock. But then Pichel is able to struck him by. But then he's able to land a step in right hook whenever Pichel gets up. So he's waiting to attack off those breaks. I don't like seeing that. But then in the second round, he starts pressing, but he walks into some leg and body kicks. But then he jabs, but then he eats a hook from Pichel. But he's able to duck the hook, and he gets his back, and he drags him down. And he has the bulldog ride, and he's able to defend a calf slicer. But then he eats a combination when he's going for the clinch, and then he gets taken down right at the end there with a double against the fence. Then in the third round, he gets pressed, but he eats some calf kicks. But then he gets shot to the fence, but he's not able to get the mat return. And then he gets a blast double from half guard. So, it was like a relatively close fight again, and I picked Pichel for that one, but you could say Mark won. Just had enough control time, didn't do a ton of damage. Marco Madsen, plus 185. Grant Dawson, minus 215. Grant Dawson taking it on like 3 weeks short notice, and to be honest with you, I don't know how to like put that into the betting line. 3 weeks, not a lot of time, but Grant Dawson's a young guy. I'm sure he knows he has a fight coming up sooner or later, so I would hope he'd be in relatively decent shape. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson. I would go really good back and forth on this one. You'd say similar skill set, both good wrestlers, but here's the biggest difference. Grant Dawson has that body triangle, and Marco Madsen doesn't. He'll take you down, he'll ride your back, but he'll ride you like actual wrestling, and then he'll hit that bulldog ride, he'll lock up his ankle, but he's not going for submissions from the back. And he's not trying to like maintain control for the entire round like Grant Dawson is. He's just trying to ride and trying to do mat returns. Grant Dawson's trying to take you down and keep you down. And that's the biggest difference. And I think it's a huge difference. And Marco Madsen can steal rounds sometimes. But I think Grant Dawson will steal the rounds in this fight. He'll get him. Like Marco Madsen might be able to take him down. But I think Grant Dawson's going to be able to escape. And then if Grant Dawson gets him down, I think he's going to be able to ride him. And for the striking, I think Dawson's just going to pressure him. And, you know, Marco Madsen likes to come forward, but he kind of takes his time and kind of stalks at distance. I think Grant Dawson can kind of just go right at him, you know. And as long as Dawson can stay out of the clinches with Marco Madsen, I think he'll be okay. And, yeah, I think, like, Dawson's more explosive. I think he'll just be able to double through him. And let's say it stays on the feet. I'd like to take my chances with Dawson here, you know. So, I'm going to go with Grant Dawson. Don't like the line. I might be dead wrong on this one, but I like Grant Dawson. I think it's his time. And, like, doing that to Jared Gordon, finishing Jared Gordon, having that good of a performance. And he had some tough spots where Gordon was able to defend very well, and he's still able to get those takedowns. That's huge. That's, like, unheard of. Like, he's on another planet right now. I like Grant Dawson. I'll take my chances. All right, second fight of the main card at 125 pounds, men's flyweight. You got Tagir Ulanbekov taking on Nathan Mayhem Maness. Nathan Maness is dropping down from 135, so that should be very interesting. Tagir took on Tim Elliott his last fight. In the first round, he backs up. So he gets backed up, but he pumps his jabs, but then he gets clenched off of a hook, and then he gets double legged. But then he's at range, he throws some straight rights and pumps a jab, but then he gets doubled. But he's able to keep the wizard and get right back up. Decent takedown defense here, but then he lands a 1-2, but then he gets doubled. But he's able to use the butterfly hooks and able to get to his feet. But then he gets dropped with the overhand left when he's just kind of standing at range. So that was kind of huge, and it was kind of out of nowhere. And credit to him, he did pop right back up, but it was still a huge knockdown. Then in the second round, he eats a step in left overhand, but then he chases and lands some right crosses. But then he shoots a double when pressed, but he gets his back, but Tim was able to roll out of it. But he's able to, whenever he mat returns him, Tim's just kind of able to grim roll right out. Then he lands some uppercuts in the clinch, but then he bites on the feint, and he's able to defend the trip, but then he gets clinched to the fence, and he tries to go for the hip toss, but then he's stepped over by Tim. But then he gets up, and he's able to stop the mount from Tim. But then he's able to get the clinch to the fence, but doesn't like have many big moments as Tim Elliott does. Then in the third round, he eats some body shots in the clinch, but then he lands an elbow, and he's able to circle out off of that. Then he backs up and throws some straight rights, but then he's double attempt to get stuffed, but he's able to get around his back standing, and then he's able to get the body triangle, and then drags him down there, and has some nice ground and pound there, and finishes the round pretty strong, and definitely takes the third round. But round one, definitely lost. Second round was close, but I think you give it to Tim. So, you know, he just couldn't get going, you know, early enough. And then Nathan Maness took on Umar Nurmagomedov, his last fight, and he just got grapple fucked to death, okay? So we don't got to go over that. But before that, he took on Tony Gravely at 135 pounds. In the first round, he eats some hooks and a knee on the fence, but then he pumps his jabs at range. Then he eats an overhand, but he's able to stuff with a double leg attempt. But then he lands some right crosses, but then he gets hip tossed off of that. But then he gets up in the front headlock position, and then he's able to shoot his own double, just kind of blast right through Tony Gravely. I thought that was impressive. He throws a 1-2, but then he gets clinched, but then eats some body kicks off of his jab. Then he gets dropped with the overhand right at the end there, like 5 seconds left, literally. And I think if there's any more time left, he would have got finished. But he's able to make it through. Regains consciousness. Second round, he eats a hook on the fence, but then he presses with the 1-2 and some jabs, and he's able to stuff a double leg attempt again, and then he lands a left hook and then an uppercut, and then that drops him, and then just jumps on him and gets a TKO from ground and pound. So, I don't know. But Tony Gravely, solid wrestler. So, Nate Maness plus 185, Tagir Ulanbekov minus 215. I'm going to go with Tagir Ulanbekov. I think he dropped weight, and 135 to 125. That's a tough one. I haven't seen anybody have success at that weight class. TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt, the list goes on. And then, sorry, I forget which fight it was, but like recently there's been people that have been dropping weight classes and they've been losing. So I just don't like that. That should be reason enough. But also, Tagir is I think Tagir is going to be able to clinch him up and just kind of wear on him. Nate Maness might steal a round or two early, I guess. And he's going to put up a decent fight, maybe. But I think, you know, Tagir, if Maness does get him down, I mean, Tim Elliott had a hell of a time keeping him down. So I think he'll be able to get up. And I just think he's going to pressure him. And I think Maness is going to feel the effects of that weight cut in rounds 2 and 3. So I'm going to go to Tagir here. Don't think too much into it. I just... You know, if I see those weight cuts, I'm going to fade them probably. Under 2.5 plus 165, you know. Dropping down a weight class. Brain's dehydrated, so you never know. But I'm going to go with Tagir Ulanbekov here. Featured fight of the main card, 265 pounds, men's heavyweight. Chase the Vanilla Gorilla Sherman taking on Josh Parisian. Hope you guys like some slop fest. It's UFC Fight Night. You got to have some slop on there. Sherman took on Jared Vanderaa his last fight. In the first round, he lands a right cross. Remember, he gets pressed, slips a jab, lands some leg kicks. Then he lands a lead left hook, but then he eats a right jab in return. But then he lands a right hook to the body, left hook to the head. And then he eats a check hook off of his lunge overhand, a little extended, but then he lands a lunge right cross off of Jared's hook. Second round, he walks into some jabs, though, but then he gets pressed with the left hook and a right cross on the inside. But he's able to slip the jab, and he looks for a left overhand. Then in the third round, he eats an overhand off of his jab, and then he walks into a right hook, but then he lands some 1-2s in the pocket. Then he lands some hooks to the body, and then a right hook to the head. In the clinch position, that kind of rocks him, and then he just unleashes on him with a flurry and knocks him out. And that was a big win because he was about to get cut and he was losing that fight. He was losing that round, gets a knockout. Chase Sherman's got power. Chase Sherman's a dog. So Josh Parisian took on Alan Badeau his last fight. In the first round, he just kind of circles the outside, has his back toward the cage, eats some jabs and an overhand. Then he gets pressed with a jab and some body shots in the clinch. Then he just walks right into a jab, but then his spin gets caught and he gets dropped with the right hook. But he tries the Kimura, eats more ground and pound, but then he's able to work his way to his feet. He gets clinched, but then he's able to get a double leg. Alan Badeau gets retired, and then lands some ground and pound up against the fence with like 20 seconds left. So you can feel the momentum shift, unfortunately. Then in the second round, he eats some uppercuts in the clinch. He slips a jab. Then he gets the double leg off the fence, ground and pound, and side control. Then he gets the body lock trip off the fence, full mount, ground and pound, TKO. What a sloppy fight. But he got it done. He was able to withstand the early barrage and had some decent wrestling. Josh Parisian plus 110. Chase Sherman minus 130. I don't know. I'm going to try to stick to my rule. It's a low-level heavyweight, go for the underdog, even though it didn't work for me last weekend. But I just don't see a reason why Chase Sherman would win over Josh Parisian. Chase Sherman has good striking at times, but he looked very sloppy against Jared Vanderaa. And Chase Sherman, I guess, has okay wrestling, but so does Josh Parisian. And I just don't know. It's too close to call. I'm going to go with Josh Parisian here, plus 110. Why not? Both guys are fighting for their jobs, so we'll see. But it should be fun, man. Both guys are bang. Like, these low-level heavyweight fights, they come to fight. Say what you will, but they fight. All right, co-main event of the evening, 170 pounds, men's welterweight. You got Daniel D. Rod Rodriguez taking on Neil, the Haitian sensation / the Gazelle. Magny, big fight for each guy. Magny coming off the loss to Shavkat, so he just wants to prove his relevancy in this division and then kind of like cement himself as like that top 10-ish gatekeeper. Like, if you want to be elite in the division, you got to beat Neil Magny. And Daniel Rodriguez, close win over Li Jingliang. He's trying to make a run to the title in theory. So he needs to get past Neil Magny, and this will let us know exactly where he's at. So big fight for each guy. And they're kind of, I guess they're fighting for like a number 12 ranking here, or like right below top 10, you know. Rodriguez took on Li Jingliang his last fight. In the first round, he gives him a body kick, but he backs out of the 1-2 range. Then he stalks and lands some lunge jabs, but then he walked into some overhands and he eats a body kick, but then he lands able to land a head kick, and then he rushes with some hooks after this kick misses though. But then in the second round, he eats a leg kick and overhand right at range, but then he eats a hook off of his leg kick, but then he gets rocked with the overhand right off of his 1-2, but then he lands his he jabs and he lands left head kick at range, so he's able to like recover and, you know, doesn't lose his composure when he gets hit. Then in the third round, he stalks, he moves in and out with some leg kicks, but then he eats a check hook. Then he jabs and he backs out of the overhand range, but then he gets clipped with one of them. But you know, still mostly defensively responsible for most of the fight. But not much happened. This fight was thrown together on a day's notice, so I can't really blame anybody. But then Neil Magny, he took on Shavkat Rockman off his last fight. He just got grapple fucked to death. Okay, that's not Daniel Rodriguez's game. But before that, he took on Max Griffin. In the first round, he jabs at range, but he walks into an overhand, but then he eats some straights when he's coming forward, and then he gets dropped with a straight right. It was powerful. But he recovers, man. Gotta give him that. And then he comes forward, he pumps some jabs, and then some straight rights, and he starts kind of feeling himself and finding his range, and starts doing some damage. Then in the second round, he comes in too far inside, then he eats some overhands because he's trying to jab, trying to find his range, but then he comes too far where Max will be able to slip and land overhand. But then he starts finding his range, then he jabs and lands some right crosses, and then he lands the overhand to the double on the fence, then he shoots a single, can't finish it, but puts the pressure on him, lets him know what's up. Third round, he jabs, and he ducks the blitz, and then he clinches to the fence, and he gets around his back, one hook in on the fence, some ground and pound, and then he tries to get both hooks, but he gets reversed. But, you know, it was enough to win the fight. So, yeah, that's what he did. Third round, you know, he was able to do his fence work and get him down there. The good old left leg hook with the back against the fence, and just work. So that's what he does, man. He's a worker. No Magny, plus 100. Daniel Rodriguez, minus 120. I don't know, bro. Yeah. Actually. Yeah, it's a tough one, dude. Like, is no Magny falling off because he got dropped his last fight. I think he just got ran over by Shavkat. But, sorry, actually, Daniel Rodriguez is plus 100. Neil Magny is minus 120. And that's what is really throwing me off here. I thought Neil Magny would be an underdog. And if he was an underdog, Neil Magny all day. So, I don't know, bro. I'm going to go with Daniel Rodriguez, I guess. Just because he's an underdog this fight, I don't know. I think Neil Magny will be able to get him into that classic, he'll put the one hook in and gets the fence toward the end of the fight, I think. But Rodriguez, I think, will be able to tune him up for 2 rounds at least. And he's pretty good about, like, he fought Kevin Lee, like, he was pretty good about the wrestling defense, or if he got taken down, he was able to pop right back up and make him pay for it. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think he'll give up the third round, but I think rounds 1 and 2 are Daniel. I think he'll be able to keep him at range, and I think he'll be able to land some overhands, just kind of how Max Griffin was. And I think Neil's might have a hard time finding his range, but we'll see. And then if they just bang in the pocket, Daniel's got the slight power advantage. So I'm going to go with Daniel Rodriguez, plus 100, but flip a coin, honestly. All right, main event of the evening at 115 pounds, women's strawweight. You got Marina Rodriguez taking on Amanda Lemos. This is for a potential title shot. Not necessarily a title shot, but they're in the conversation there. And like I said, next week you got Zhang Weili taking on Carlos Barza. And then after that, you know, we'll see. Depending on how this fight goes, I think Marina finishes her, has a dominant performance. I think she'll be next in line. And Amanda, if she knocks, I still think she needs one more win no matter what happens. But she'll be in the conversation. She'll cement herself in the conversation if she wins here. So, important fight for both ladies. Let's get into it. Marina Rodriguez took on Yan Zhao in her last fight. In the first round, she pumped some jabs, but then she gets blitzed. She gets blitzed back, kind of, but she's kind of circling it and kind of come forward. But Yan has the power advantage. But then she lands a hooks counter off of Yan's leg kick. In the second round, she stalks with a hooks combination, but then she eats a counter hook. But then she lands a step in 1-2. But then she gets clipped with a hook, and then she backs out whenever Marina misses the hook. And then she lands a 1-2, but then she gets taken down off of her jump knee. Whenever they're in the clinch, they're kind of in an exchange, and then Yan's able to grab that knee. And then she gets clinch off of Yan's shot off the fence, and then she's able to pull the plum knees toward the end of the round. And second round was the closest, but you know, depends if you want to score a takedown, if you want to score those knees for Marina. But that was a good weapon. I wish she would have went more too in the fight. Then in the third round, she lands a straight blitz. She throws a straight blitz from range, but then she jabs at range, and then she lands a lunge right cross, but then she eats a left hook, and then she lands some more plum knees and elbows in the clinch right at the end there, but they're kind of going back and forth, and she needed to put a stamp on it. So, you know, we'll see. Oh, sorry. And then in the second round, I noticed Marina would kind of throw a 1-2, but then Yan would be able to block it. And then she would back out, and then she'd have Marina throwing that hook, and then Marina would miss that hook. So Yan was just a little bit faster than her. But, you know, it was a good fight. It was close. Amanda Lemos took on Michelle Waterson in her last fight. In the first round, she stalks forward. She lands some jabs at range, and then some body kicks. And then she lands a lunge 1-2, but she misses with the left hook. And she winds up pretty big on there, though. So, but she's kind of telegraphing herself a little bit. But then she gets blast doubled off of her kick, and Michelle Waterson took that round. I didn't expect that one. Didn't do a ton of damage, but she took it. But then in the second round, she walks into some side kicks, but then she's able to rip the body with some hooks and uppercut. And it was an uppercut to the body. And then she misses a hook, but then she gets singled. But then she's able to get up with the whizzer. So whenever she gets taken down, her knee hits the mat, she pops right back up. So I like seeing that. And then, even though Marina's not a big wrestler, you just never know. You have having that in your back pocket. But then she just pulls the guillotine submission right away, and you know, it was tight. It was a good one, and chokes her out. So yeah. And then before that, she got a standing arm triangled by Jessica Andrade, but she was winning on the feet, and she was bringing the pressure to Jessica Andrade, and she was landing some clean 1-2s. So, you know, there's some things to like about her. Amanda Lemos plus 190, Marina Rodriguez minus 225. I'm just going to go with Amanda Lemos. Even though it's high-level women's MMA, that line's insane. Marina keeps fights close. She doesn't do a ton of damage. She doesn't hit hard. Amanda has the power advantage, and Amanda has the grappling advantage. And Amanda can pull a submission at any time. So I think Marina, as the fight goes on, maybe Marina will be able to pick it up in the later rounds. But early on, I think Amanda's going to be in her face. So, I like her. I like the underdog money. Plus 190, too much to pass up. I'm going to go with Amanda Lemos. Alright, everyone. Thanks for sticking with me. I appreciate it. Not doing so great, but I'm trying. So, and, you know, these cards aren't the best. But next weekend's going to be awesome. You got Izzy and Alex Pereira, so sign me up for that one. But check the Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff down in the description below. Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Ask me a question. Tell your friends. Maybe you can win some money. Who knows? Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence. And let's see some profit. Good luck, everyone.